Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are about to commence the topic on citta parikarma, Chittaprasadanam, or the process to cosmicalize the chitta. Before going to that, it should be interesting to see some sequential order of the sutras which have covered certain topics as to how we have come here. Because we are embarking upon a new topic. So it's not like chapters in the book where previous chapter may not be connected with the following chapter. That's why they call chapters. So it is not like that. It is a sutra. So after samprajñāt asamprajñāt yoga was described, defined, characterized, articulated, explained, asamprajñāt samādhi, which is the goal, final goal of Ashtanga Yoga, about that we were told that asamprajñāt samādhi gives rise to viveka khyati, and viveka khyati is the means for spiritual summum bonum called kaivalya. Aviplava viveka khyati is the means for kaivalya. And having mentioned asamprajñāt samadhi, the two types of asamprajñāt samadhi were mentioned, both pratyaya and upāya pratyaya. For you and me, those who on the path of yoga need to take recourse to upāya pratyaya asamprajñāt samadhi. And the asamprajñāt samadhi, the goal, obviously we look for not only goal, but we want to attain the goal in a quicker time. So then came the topic of means and intensities, whereby asamprajñāt samadhi, the coveted goal of yoga, can be attained in a quick time, and then quicker time, and then quickest time, where we were told about various levels, hierarchies of means of yoga. Lower means of yoga may not fetch you asamprajñāt samadhi at all. And so there were these three hierarchies mentioned: Mrudu Upāya, Madhyam Upāya, Adhimatra Upāya. And in Adhimatra Upāya, tivra samvega would help attain asamprajñāt samadhi in a quick time. So if something is attained in a quick time, it also implies that something would be helping us attain the same in a quicker time and then quickest time. So we were shown the mathematics of intensities of practices in the highest or qualifying means of yoga, asamprajñāt yoga. And then it was mentioned that rather than going for unwieldy practices, unwieldy means, and then unwieldy intensities, Īśvarapraņidhāna came as option. So that the practices or the means do not become unwieldy, and the intensities also do not become unwieldy. And yet samadhi can be attained in a quickest time. That's how Īśvarapraņidhāna came. Īśvarapraņidhāna dva was the sutra. That means Īśvara bhakti. And then Īśvara was described, defined, characterized, articulated. And the pranidhana for asamprajñāt samadhi was tajjapas tadartha bhavanam, with regards to pranava. Pranava, which is the denoter of Īśvara. And that's how the means were explained. Īśvarapraņidhāna as the means for asamprajñāt samadhi was mentioned. And then we were made aware of the fact that Īśvarapraņidhāna would help you reach the highest spiritual summum bonum, the goal, highest goal. If that not attained for any reasons, something else is attained. That something else was adhigama, adhigama. That is realizing the finite individual Purusha Chaitanya. If that too is not attained, obstacles would be managed, handled, mitigated, nullified, or neutralized. And in order to neutralize the obstacles, again came the mention Eka-tattva-abhyāsa. Now this Eka-tattva-abhyāsa comes as a means to mitigate, to neutralize the obstacles of yoga, Vyādhi adi and duḥkha daurmanasya adi. Vyādhi, sthana, etc. and duḥkha daurmanasya, etc. So, that had to be again faced, or that should be combated with Eka-tattva-abhyāsa. So, solution to problem was mentioned. The problem is obstacles and their accompanists. And the solution was Eka-tattva-abhyāsa. But the solution itself, in practical sense, is a problem for us. So solution is not a solution for us. Solution is not really solution to many of us, most of us. So therefore, there is solution to this problem, Eka-tattva-abhyāsa. And that's how the practices are opened out gradually. So now it is mentioned here that if Eka-tattva-abhyāsa itself is becoming a problem, it is because we are not adhering to certain measures. If we adhere to those measures, then that would not be impossible or that difficult. That is citta parikarma. We need to start with citta parikarma. By citta parikarma, we will be able to have sustained and practice with constancy, practice with steadfastness, practice of Eka-tattva-abhyāsa, and then Eka-tattva-abhyāsa would mitigate obstacles and their accompanists. If they are mitigated or neutralized, this samādhi sadhana, samādhi would become possibility. If samādhi became possibility, asamprajñāt samādhi would become possibility. If asamprajñāt samādhi could become possibility by Īśvarapraņidhāna, thus asamprajñāt samādhi would be attained. If asamprajñāt samādhi is attained, kaivalya would be attained, spiritual summum bonum would be attained. So this is how the sutras have a running purport. Although there are divisions like vritti prakaranam, then came the vritti nirodha prakaranam of abhyasa vairagya, then came the samprajñāt asamprajñāt prakaranam. So although the topics are coming, yet there is a flow. Patanjali Sutra have a flow, and we must understand this. And once we understand this, then flow will make us comprehend the process, comprehend the treatise of Patanjali better. So with that, we are now embarking upon citta parikarma. Now, usually what happens, these days, we are told that in lifestyle we must have meditation. Therefore, do some meditation. This is the advice that comes. So we think it is something to be done, and we embark upon and we start doing it. Something that has been initiated to us as meditation, we want to do it. When you sit for meditation, then you really face the practical problem that you want to do meditation to quieten the mind, and by the meditation that you do, the mind is more disquieted. You enthusiastically embark upon your meditative practices, the meditation that is initiated by your teachers, by your gurus, by your sadgurus. You embark upon, and when you really start doing it, the mind plays monkey tricks. The mind, as I said during the last session, is more troublesome to us when we do the meditation. It is far better when we are in our business activity of life. So what is that we try? We want to just shun ourselves to business activity of life and sit maybe early in the morning, close our eyes and sit there and do meditation. So usually we are told, get up early in the morning, Brahma Muhurtam, 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30. So try to sit for that. It is very compatible time. Atmosphere is very compatible, and therefore your meditation would succeed. So that's a kind of allurement. No doubt that Brahma Muhurta is the best time for meditation, but there needs to be some preparatories. You just can't sit every morning, early in the morning, and sit for meditation as a part of regimen of the day. And then therefore we experience, you sit and start doing some japa, and the mind becomes more turbulent, volatile, and it really vexes you yourself. Our mind knows how to vex others, and we vex during the daytime, during the whole awakeful state. We can be vexing others. But then when you think of meditating on your own, taking some japa, etc., meditation, etc., you are given some point, trataka, bindu, etc., and you concentrate and you start doing it. And then that's the condition that you create, that your mind can vex you yourself. Of course, that is far better than vexing others. You vexing others is far worse than you yourself vexing yourself. So, it is because we are not adhering to the process given by Patanjali. We just want to do it. So, before the for Eka-tattva-abhyāsa is a meditative practice. And why is it that we fail in Eka-tattva-abhyāsa? That we don't concentrate, we don't get the focus, we don't get the confinement. We can easily be having concentration while we are reading a novel. But take a japa, then you know how the mind starts playing monkey tricks. It is because we are not really gone through necessary orientation, necessary preparatory. So there needs to be a citta parikarma. Like you take bath in the morning, and taking bath you feel noble, you feel sanctified, and then you do your puja, etc. So to be doing puja, you know that you must complete your morning rituals up to taking bath. And having taken bath, you feel electrified, energized, and even sublime, and then you can embark upon your puja. So just as we don't do puja without taking a bath, we do take a bath and then go for puja. Similarly, there is some kind of bathing required, bathing to citta. So this is citta parikarma, can be also understood as bathing for citta. So just as when you take a bath, you feel quiet, serene, electrified, and even noble. So that is called snanam. So there is something called as shaucha vidhi. So that's called shaucha vidhi, shaucham. When you have done all that, then you feel yourself more fit to be embarking upon some pujanam, puja, or yagna, yaga, etc. So shaucham, we know, we do not embark upon those in ashaucha. And then shaucha implies so many things. The morning rituals, the toilet engagement, after toilet engagement, bathroom engagement. And then we come to puja room. We don't go to bathroom straight away without going for the toilet engagement. So this is something that the tradition has taught us. Early morning, first thing is that we must evacuate our bowels, and we must have a toilet engagement, and then go to bathroom. So just that is the shaucha, and this is the gross expression of the shaucha, the toilet engagement and bathroom engagement. Similarly, for citta, there is a toilet engagement and bathroom engagement. Your toilet and your bathroom is not the place for it. And we don't do that. We just do the shaucha of our corporeal body, and then we think we are fit. We know that it is to be done by mind, but we don't bother about the mind. So it needs its protocol to be followed, and that is called citta parikarma. We know only body of the bath, and having taken the bath of the body, we get some positive things, positive condition in us. But that is okay for business activity of life. Many of them don't want to commence business activity of life unless they have taken a bath. So that is shaucha for business activity of life, as I said about toilet engagement and bathroom engagement. But something needs to be done for very citta, very consciousness, very mind stuff. And we don't bother about it. And Patanjali is telling us about that. And that process, that protocol is called citta parikarma, which is being commenced. And there are sutras which are coming to explain the whole process. So in citta parikarma, it is not the process that is mentioned here. He has mentioned certain means. In different condition of our citta, we need different treatments which become shaucha of the citta. The citta has to be purified depending upon what is its state. So there are number of means mentioned here. So one of those, or two of those, or three of those, or four of those, or five of those, or all of those have to be taken up. Then the mind is relatively qualified, rendered fit to be going for Eka-tattva-abhyāsa or meditative practice. In our plane, it is japa. Japa is our meditation. Japor dhyanam. Dhyana itself means we have to take japa of our personal deity. Take recourse to japa of personal deity. Take recourse to japa of some mantras. So that is dhyanam. Nama japa, mantra japa. There are panchakshari mantras, shadakshari mantras, ashtakshari mantras, त्रयोदशाक्षरी mantras, द्वादशाक्षरी mantras, षोडशाक्षरी mantras, or namas. So we have to take recourse to nama and japa. Japa itself is meditation. For anyone, even yogi on highest plane, it all begins with japa. Then it may be Onkar japa for a proficient yogi. And Onkar japa will land into samādhi. If you recall sampragnat topic, we had seen the process of sampragnata samādhi and asampragnata samādhi. So pranava japa comes in there. So even for a proficient yogi, be that Yajnavalkya, be that Patanjali, their dhyanam also starts with japa, but their japa ends at a point and our japa ends in another point. That's all the difference. Our starting point is same. You and me are Gyaneshwars and Ramdas and Tukarams and Yajnavalkyas and Patanjalis and whoever. They have to commence with japa. So japa is starting point for all of us. But our japa doesn't take too far in yoga, and their japa takes them quite a distance in yoga, perhaps the terminal condition of yoga. However, japa is dhyanam. Dhyanam is japa. This should be understood. So for that dhyana to be done, there is something as a precursor, something has to precede. And those are these means which Patanjali has mentioned. He has mentioned 7 means. There are 7 measures and 7 means mentioned in the topic of citta parikarma. We may have to take one of those, or 2 of those, or 3 of those, or 4 of those, or 5 of those, or 6 of those, or all 7 of those. And then we enter the field of meditation. This is unknown to common man, layman, and in Neo Yoga, this is unknown. And they just sit cross-legged, keep the hands in particular mudra, resting on the crossing of the legs, or keeping the hands on the knees in Jnana Mudra, etc., or Anjali Mudra at the chest, and they straight away go for dhyana. That is a major flaw, and that is because of enormous kind of quackery rampant in our times. So now Patanjali is going to mention the means to make the chitta placid, make the chitta sublime, make the chitta sedate, make the chitta quiet, make the chitta serene. So when the chitta is sublime, serene, quiet, passive, placid, noble, that is the field for japa, that is the field for dhyana. We hasten to dhyana, we take bypass to what is so essential. We just fold our legs or put the legs to Padmasana, cross the legs in Svastikasana, sit, close the eyes, and either have the Bhrumadya Drushti or Nasagra Drushti, etc., and then straight away start our meditation. We have not created a proper field. The Shaucham, the measures, the 7 measures which are mentioned in the topic here, they are all Chaitik baths, giving bath to chitta, cleaning the chitta, washing the chitta, purifying the chitta, sublimating the chitta, ennobling the chitta. And when that is done, then there are more chances that your meditation would be successful. The japa would be successful. And this is unknown in present world, which is full of quackery in yoga. Yoga is practiced globally, but the quackery is rampant. And that's why in educative process we are getting this education, which is so important to understand. And therefore he commences the topic of this chitta parikarma. So when the chitta parikarma is adhered to sufficiently and successfully, then dhyana prayogam, the experiment of meditation, would become more probably successful, unobstructed. And then the meditation can bloom and blossom. Like when you want to grow a plant on the field, you do some nurturing of the ground, doing some treatment to the ground, and then only when you plant the seed and you get the plant and fruit and flower, which are more healthy. But if you have not taken care of the ground where you are going to have the plant, naturally there is less chance that you will have a very good plant coming up with good fruits and good flowers. So the dhyana would bloom and blossom when the field for dhyana, the chitta, has been taken care of properly. Proper farming, like in the farming technique, they take certain care of the ground, and then they have the plantations there. So that is what is being commenced. The chitta should be understood as a field on which the samādhi fruit has to come, samādhi plant has to come, or dhyana plant has to come, and dhyana fruit has to come, dhyana flower has to come, and then it should be fresh, good flower and fruit. So when it is such a condition, the vitarka badha would be kept at bay, which we saw earlier. The vitarka badha, or the antarayas, or vikshepa sahabhuva, sahayogis, so all those would be kept at bay. Vitarka, antaraya, vikshepa. Vitarka means disturbance, antaraya means obstacles, and vikshepa means again some interferences, which are negative interferences, and then they have their accompanying factors, which we saw: duḥkha, daurmanasya, angamai, jayatva, shvasa, prashvasa. So there is a fortress that they cannot really enter easily. But the way we go for it, we don't create a fortress condition, and we attempt, and naturally we are attacked by vitarka, by antaraya, by vikshepa, and the vikshepa accompanists. That is called Chittaprasadanam. When that treatment is done, the chitta is called Chittaprasadita or Chittaprasadanam, and that is chitta parikarma. So when that is accomplished, then the chitta is shanta, prashanta, nirmala, prasadita, nishkalanka, paradarshi. So shanta means quiet, prashanta means exaltedly quiet, nirmala means without any taint, without any dot, without any stigma, nishkalanka, so also similarly more advanced state of pure mind. Then paradarshi, that is transparent. The mind becomes transparent. And then such a mind is the proper mind for meditation to bloom and blossom. Not any mind which is good for bloom and blossom. And we try to do it on any mind. We don't really do this farming and agricultural act of land conservation. The land is chitta, and we do not take any care, and we straight away start embarking upon japa and dhyana. So that is prasadanam, prasadano upāya, upāya for chitta to be placid, Chitta to be made placid, serene, sublime, sedate, quiet, clean, pure, pious, transparent. When Patanjali deals with antar shaucha, this is antar shaucha. In a way, antar shaucha, internal shaucham. Patanjali has mentioned while dealing with niyamas, shaucham, and Vyasa tells us there is bahir shaucha and antar shaucha. Now see the effect of antar shaucha that Patanjali has described. Sattva shuddhi, saumya manasa, ekagra, indriya jaya, atmadarshana yogyatvani cha. So Patanjali himself is mentioning the effect of internal purification, and we are not bothering about this. We are only taking a bath, going to bathroom, and then sit for meditation. So sattva shuddhi, chitta shuddhi, the purification of the mind. The mind almost at its roots. From there onwards, whole mind clean, pure. Saumanasya. Saumanasya means the mind which is in wonderful positive condition, quiet, serene, sublime, sedate, pensive, reflective, ekagra. So it can become one-pointed. So digression factors will be kept at bay. Then indriya jaya, the senses are in a conquered conditions. Therefore, fit for atma darshana. And that is what we are looking for here. Atma darshana yogyatva. So that is how Patanjali also has mentioned the chitta parikarma as antar shaucham. And we are not bothered about antar shaucham, and we want to do meditations. So shaucha is a very extensive concept here. It is that's all. That is the Chittaprasadanam. What is Chittaprasadanam means? You are aware of certain things like manasa shaucham, manasa shuddhi, antakarana shuddhi, chitta shuddhi, sattva shuddhi. So, how to go about? How will you go for manasa shaucha, manasa shuddhi, antakarana shuddhi, ahankar shuddhi, chitta shuddhi, buddhi shuddhi, sattva shuddhi? Now the measures are being mentioned. In the topic of chitta parikarma, the 7 alternatives which are mentioned, they are for all these purifications. Manasa, Bauddha, Ahankara, Chitta, Bhavana, and Sattva. Sattva Shuddhi. So, we need to give importance to these aspects and these processes which are not given today in the quack process of yoga. So the mind becomes there is a saumanasya. We will be going into details when we deal with shaucham in the 2nd chapter, niyama. Saumanasya, now we can understand it is high-mindedness. The mind on high pedestal of contentment, peace and tranquility. That is saumanasya. So it is enormously contented state. It is anandavastha, samadhanavastha, ladhavastha, allhadavastha, prahalladhavastha, allhada, lhada, prallada are the mind is in complete saturation with these qualities of the mind. And therefore, it is proof for any daurmanasyam. And we have seen the daurmanasyam which comes in the obstacle aspects. So it is proof to any daurmanasya. And that means when daurmanasya cannot be touching that mind, then naturally the mind will be quiet and serene. Daurmanasya is the one which disturbs the mind. So there would be no vighata. Vighata rupa duḥkham, vighata rupa kshobha, kshubdhata, durmukhi. All these things will be kept at bay. So also ichha, asha, akanksha, all these things will not be bubbling in the mind. And therefore the mind will be quiet, serene, like a lake, steady, transparent lake. So the mind should become like a steady, transparent lake of very clean, crystal clear water. Then only Eka-tattva-abhyāsa is possible. When the Eka-tattva-abhyāsa is possible, the antarayas and their accompanists are kept at bay. When they are kept at bay, your mind will qualify for samādhi. When it is qualified for samādhi, it will go towards self-realization, it will go towards Īśvara realization, and it will reach the summum bonum. So, this is the enunciation to the topic of citta parikarma, which I did to best of my possibility. And then comes the topic of citta parikarma, starting from the first sutra, and then there are 7 such sutras. The sutras are Maitri Karuno Mudita Upekshanam Sukha Duḥkha Punya Punya Vishayanam Bhavanatas Chittaprasadanam. Number 1. Prachardana Vidhanabhyam Va Pranasya. Number 2. Vishayavati Va Pravrutir Utpanna Manasaha Sthiti Nibandhani. Then Vishokava Jyotishmati. Number 4. Vitaraga Vishayam Va Chittam. Number 5. Swapna Nidra Gnānalambanam Va. Number 6. And number 7. Yatha Adhimatra Dhyanat Va. So very elaborate scheme has been mentioned. Very, very fascinating scheme. And once this scheme is understood, and then we get familiar with the practices suggested by these alternatives mentioned here, then we have a process to carry out that act to set right the field of dhyanam, Eka-tattva-abhyāsa or Eka-tattva-abhyāsam. And then of course we will be countering all obstacles, go towards pratyakchetanadigama, and then Īśvaradigama, and then kaivalyam. So these are marvelous set of sutras which will tell us about also yogic mind. Today we are just taking up yogic practices for starting from 10 minutes to 45 minutes, and that is more than enough according to present normative sciences, where they say life style. For lifestyle, do yoga for 10 minutes to 45 minutes, then you are done. Nowhere the preparatory aspects are mentioned, because we are in a haste and we just want all that out of quackery. So all yoga today is available out of quackery. The Gurukula system is gone, and now it's all quackery, and therefore all these things are set aside. So Patanjali is mentioning this topic of citta parikarma. Now let me tell you that reality as to why our meditation fails. See, basically our mind has a lot of dirt by our business activity of life, by our vasanas, by our tendencies, by our propensities, by our karma, by our karma baggage, and by the mundane gravities. The mind is sullified. The mind is sullified and made absolutely dirty. And then we are trying to attempt meditation in such dirty mind. When the water is grey and brown, we don't want to drink it. And here we are trying to do the meditation with the mind matter which has really gone grey, brown, perhaps even black, absolutely being dirty. So just as you don't drink impure water, unclean water, crystal clear, transparent water, we don't bother about that. In meditation also we need a mind like that. So we don't bother about that. There is a lot of sullified matter, a lot of dirt in the mind. And we try to quieten that mind. Let me tell you, if the water is very dirty, sullified, and when the water steadies, now we know that when the water is not having ruffling, when the water steadies, the heavy particles settle at the bottom. So when the water is not absolutely dirty, we know that by putting some alum or stirring some alum in the water, we know that after little time all dirt will settle down and you will get crystal clear water. Although not pure water, it will be clean water on the surface. And we can see the dirt settled at the bottom of the water container. But when the water is dirty, when the water steadies, becomes steady because of there is no ruffling, no disturbance on the water, the moss comes up. The moss surfaces and the moss covers the surface of water. And then you have to move the moss aside, then you get clean water, not pure water. You get clean water in the sense it is transparent. But that's still not good to be drinking the water because it is not pure, it is clean. Because the dirt has settled down, dust particles and dirt, etc., they have settled down. But the moss comes up. So our mind is already dirty. By mundane gravity, mundane activity, we are sunk in mundanity, we are sunk in practicality of life, we are in unyogic life, we are in bhogic life. So there is bhoga going on, and just we want to 10, 15, 20 minutes of yoga at the beginning of the day and again go for bhoga. This is what is our yoga today. So when you try to settle down for dhyana with a given condition of mind, which is a mortal mind, mundane mind, totally soaked in mundanity, soaked in the gravities, under the gravities of mundanity, that's why the moss comes up, the dirt comes up. And that is why what happens, which we experience. Our mind becomes more disturbed by dhyana. It is because of this, because there is already a lot of dirt. We have not taken necessary precaution. Like if you have to filter water today, you get water, subterranean water, mineral water, etc. But we go for certain processing on it. And we make the water clean and then make the water pure, and then the water becomes edible, drinkable. So that we have not understood here. We straight away try to sit for meditation, and what happens? The moss comes up. When the moss comes up, our mind is more dirty, more vexing than it is in the worldly life. When we are in the hecticality of mundane life, our mind is not so bad. But when you are sitting for meditation, the mind becomes bad. It is because the moss surfaces. See, if the meditation is disturbed And if you are more vexed by meditation, one of the reasons given by the yoga technology is that our mind has malice. Our mind has jealousy. And I am not speaking about express jealousy or express malice, but the malice potential that is in the mind, the jealousy potential that is there in mind, the raga potential that is there in mind, krodha potential that is there in mind. That surfaces like moss. That is the moss in our citta, and that surfaces. And therefore, our meditations are detonated. And then we come out of it with fretting and fuming. We ourselves are vexed. So, in one of the anecdotes which a guru receives from the student, he says, when I am not in meditation, I am capable of vexing others. And when I sit for meditation, I become capable of vexing myself. I vex myself. But when I am not in meditation, I can vex others. So I feel vexing others is far better than me myself vexing myself. So this is the anecdote which a Sadguru had heard. A guru had heard in a satsanga when the disciple had the predicament and put this question. So why is it that I have started vexing myself when I never have intention to vex myself, but I sit for japa, then I start vexing myself? Intent is something else. This is not, never can be such an intent that I want to vex myself. Whoever will have this intent that I want to vex myself, but did you end up vexing yourself with your meditations? So something has to be practiced in life. You can't do just as a precursor to meditation or as a preamble to meditation, invoke Maitri Bhav, invoke Karuna, invoke Mudita, then invoke Upeksha, and then think that it is suitable field for dhyana. No, that is not the way. So why are we vexed when we go for meditation? Why do we vex ourselves while we go to meditation and dhyana and japa? So the first measure which Patanjali is mentioning is telling about that. There is chitta kalushya. There is something called as chitta kalushya, the dirt of very psyche consciousness, not dirt of just mind. Dirt in the mind. It's not dirt in the mind or dirt of the mind. It is the dirt of the very consciousness, a very chitta. That's why it is called chitta kalushyam. Vachaspati has wonderful explanation of this chitta kalushya when he deals with the first measure mentioned by Patanjali here. So we need to do something over a period of time in our life. You can't be totally mundane, totally practical minded, totally going by your tendencies and propensities in your daily activities, and just start a meditation at the helm of the day at the beginning. So some measure has to be taken in setting right our mundane life. Today's yoga, they say don't bother about it. Just carry out your nonsense of life, continue your whatever mundane life pattern or life culture is, continue with it, but just do 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 minutes of yoga in the morning. This is not done. This is not done. This is not classical approach. Something needs to be done. And therefore Patanjali embarks upon the first sutra of Chittaprasadanam. And that sutra is Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Punya Vishayanam Bhavanatas Chittaprasadanam. The simplistic interpretation is that practice friendliness when someone is happy. Have friendliness in your mind when somebody is happy. Have compassion in somebody in your mind when somebody is sad, in problem, in difficulty, vexed and sorrowed. Have mudita. Have the gladness when somebody is successful or somebody is in virtue. Somebody is in virtue, have gladness. Be glad about. Somebody is virtuous. And have indifference to someone who is in vicious act. So these are the certain practices, they say, social norm. Somebody happy, somebody sad, somebody successful and somebody in virtue, somebody in vices, wickedity, how to react. So they say Patanjali has given some instructions to react with respect to these four kinds of people. That's how the sutra has been rendered. It's almost a social norm that you must practice. But that is not the purport of the sutra. So here comes the first sutra of Chitta Parikarma, Chittaprasadanam. Let us try to consider this sutra in our next session. So enough for the time being. Namaskar.